need you to clap. All right, fine.
I'll clap if you want me to
You
clap. I clapped.
Thank you.
It means we can start.
It feels official.
It's a magical thing.
So today we are talking to Eric Matthews, who is an educator and public servant from Bozeman. He is a graduate of both Bozeman High and MSU, Go Cats, who taught at Chief Joseph Middle School for 25 years before representing House District 66 in Helena. Everybody that I have mentioned your name to in the education world knows who you are and really likes you, just so you know, Eric.
I wouldn't believe him, man.
Liars, all of them.
Eric Matthews, this is your life.
This is your life. So now that you have dealt extensively with politicians, do you miss the maturity of middle school students?
Oh, man, there's so much room for jokes right here.
There are. As a middle school teacher, I mean, I really need to know.
There are a lot of striking similarities. Lots of strong opinions based on personal experience and no real knowledge.
Yeah.
Up, so
yeah, I get that a lot.
That's not necessarily one side or the other. It's everybody comes to this with preconceived notions and life experiences and strong beliefs, whether it's, you could pick the political gamut, you could pick any topic, and the beliefs are strongly held by people. And I think that's okay. That's part of what makes this system work too, is that people have to come to the middle. And that's kind of how it feels like it's going. But yeah, there's also some immaturity that just drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Gotta be, especially this session, it seems like. And
you don't outgrow petty sometimes.
Thank you for your time. I know you are a very busy man. Has your time in government given you sort of a fresh perspective when it comes to the state of our education system?
I've been doing other work before I got elected. I'm the union guy. I started bargaining contracts with the Bozeman School District 20 some years ago. And that got me into starting to see how the union side of things, not just in a school district, but at the state level and even a little bit at the national level, has influenced our education system over time. Like pensions, we wouldn't have pensions if it wasn't for a union. We wouldn't have, 5-day work weeks if it wasn't for a union at some point. So that's how I came to it, which gave me, before I got elected, a different perspective. And then when I got here, the part that was the most frustrating about the education world is working with people that live in small towns, and they're good people with good hearts. And, if there's a kid that doesn't get lunch at school, somebody in the town just sends a sandwich for them and it's taken care of. They maybe went to MSU or U of M or one of the small community colleges, and they went back to their small town where they haven't seen what real poverty looks like. And they haven't seen what homelessness really looks like, at least in a bigger town. So it's like you're working with really good people that just have a small worldview and can't overcome that to do the right thing by other people. And it's just really frustrating.
In my school system, we have a lot of people who grew up, in this town and have stayed here the entire time and not left. And I do think that might affect a worldview. Absolutely.
And it's interesting that we're having this problem in Montana, where we don't really have a major city necessarily,
No.
but there's still that disparity that makes it tough to come to the middle.
Yeah,
it does.
Has anything interesting come out of the 2025 session so far?
There have been all sorts of really interesting policy debates and some really bad funneling public money to private school conversations and bills. And I'm a huge proponent of public schools. Yeah. And I don't think we should ever be sending any public money to private schools.
Nope.
If that's a place where you feel like you belong, then I would imagine you can afford it. And in the history of our country, when that started happening in the South and across the East, it just created a whole level of division that is worse than segregation back in the day.
I 100% agree. Des Moines, Iowa is a good example of a place that tried doing that, giving people funds from, the same pool to send their kids to private schools. And it's destroyed the school system.
It ends up being a place where you have to have funds to be able to go to the private school, and it just separates the have from the have-nots. Right. In Montana, that division is not based on race. That
No.
division is just based on whatever socioeconomic status you have. And um, a lot of the folks that have moved at least to Bozeman in the last 20 years are coming, at least in the last 5, are coming with a lot of money, because you have
Yeah.
to live
Yeah.
in Gallatin Valley, you have to have money.
And
And
what's the
some of
level
those,
of concern that we should have about these pieces of legislation you're talking about?
If it's that privatization, it's just that special ed students and students in poverty and or lower end incomes are going to be the populations of the public schools, which you see across any, like Des Moines is a great example. And that's just not fair. Our Montana Constitution is not what that was designed for. Every kid in the state deserves the highest quality. And if we continue to underfund public education, which I'm certain we are, especially in places where the cost of living is just blown up,
yeah.
then we're just doing a huge disservice.
I agree. Yeah. Public schools get shut down when you privatize education, and that's what's happening in places that have tried it. So I'm hoping that those are litmus tests that will guide legislation, but you never know.
Do you want to talk about the STARS Act a little bit?
Yeah. So I'll back up and even go before that. So the way funding works in Montana is there's a funding formula that has been in since the 90s, and there have been a few lawsuits over the years that have influenced how school funding happens. There's an artificial cap. It's just got capped at 3% for inflationary increase, and it's based on a 3-year look back. So it smooths out any real steep ups or downs. So that's been in place for a while. In addition, that cap also caps the maximum amount that the school district can really spend per kid. I'm oversimplifying there, but what that means is in a place like anywhere in the Gallatin Valley where the cost of living is ridiculous, you can't really spend more on a student there than you can on a student in Glasgow or Miles City or wherever, where the cost of living is significantly different.
Yeah.
So that funding formula is there. That cap prevents, like we had in the last 3 years, a huge inflationary increase just in the cost of living all across the board, especially with housing. Housing has far outpaced inflation in Bozeman and all over the Gallatin County. But that 3% cap smoothed over the past 3 years left the education system about 11%, 12% behind and where we should have been, just to keep up with normal inflation. So if you take 10% of a school's budget away, and you've got serious shortfalls in school districts across the double A's in particular, where the cost of living is definitely higher. Schools have been struggling. Helena is cutting tons of teachers. Programs have been getting cut. When I started teaching, we had 3 foreign languages in the middle schools. We had a year where we had just Spanish, and then we had an online version that was not well attended. And we can't hire people because we can't pay enough because the funding isn't there. So there's that giant mess of how do we make it all work. So the STARS Act, which is where we started, is an attempt to catch up on and steer money, to catch up on inflation and steer money towards teacher pay specifically. So the STARS Act is putting, I want to say it's about $50 million per year. I think it's 50 in the first year and 54 in the second year of the biennium, that will get spread out across the state. It's got some strings attached. So the intention is to bring beginning salaries up. So your school district has to be, and I'm going to be close with the number, somewhere at or just above 40,000 as a starting pay. And whatever your starting pay is has to be 70% of the average salaries you pay. So you mix those together, and there's some school districts that are making it and there's some that are not. So then now schools are trying to get to the point where they can qualify for both of those factors to get that extra money that's going to go almost entirely into salaries. It will come with other money as well that'll help solve some of the other inflationary problems, because the cost of electricity has not gone down, cost of heating, all of the above, paper, copying, whatever, materials, just all of it has continued to go up. So that funding should help. It like almost catches up with inflation from about 5 or 6 years ago, but I would also say we're still behind in general overall. And then you add cost of living, and there's 5 hotspots in the state that are considerably higher, and they're all like Flathead, Whitefish area, Lewis and Clark County, Helena, Missoula County, and Gallatin County are some of the big ones. So
It
anyway,
is tough to look around at other states and see what they're paying their teachers compared to what Montana's paying our teachers.
Really tough for me. It's fine.
Yeah.
My friends in California are like, wait, you make what?
Yeah.
And Texas too. I mean, we lose some teachers that are going. We're losing 2 teachers this year that are heading down
I
there.
believe it. And then Belgrade in particular. I mean, I don't know if we need to go that specific with the podcast. So, but there are districts near Bozeman that the teachers just leave because you can get a $10,000 raise by going across town.
Let's talk about our local school system a little bit. You have basically been in our local school system for your entire life.
Yeah.
What changes have you noticed?
Ooh, that's a tough one. You know,
quite a few.
Most of my career with middle school kids, I was that person. Like everybody seems like they get older and complain about kids. I didn't see kids changing over most of my career.
Mm-hmm.
The kids stayed the same. Their brains are whacked out. And I taught middle school for 25 years, and they are wacky little creatures, all of them, from 25 years ago to last year. And I love them. So the kids themselves I didn't feel like they changed. Watching our town change around them, watching parenting change. And I wouldn't have even thought the social media and phones were that big of a deal until I read the book, The Anxious Generation. It's a really good book that kind of talks about how we've allowed like kids far too young to get dopamine hits that are not healthy for them. So it's a great book. I would recommend it if you haven't read it. And it just really kind of frames how kids' brains have changed in the last 10 or 15 years specifically.
I just let my 16-year-old have a social media account, but he has a 15-minute limit a day.
Oh, nice. Good for you.
But listen, he's no stranger to dopamine hits. He's been getting those for quite a few years.
With gaming. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He does like that, but he likes this driving game. He actually told me he feels like he could be a race car driver now. I'm like, there's a difference.
That's exactly the same.
That did remind me of one thing that has changed a lot over the years. When I was growing up, like you'd drive by the high school parking lot and everybody just had whatever car their parents either helped them get. There was the old car.
Yes.
Or like I had my first car I bought for $200 and I had to fix it so I could drive it. Yeah. Now it's like almost every car in the parking lot is significantly nicer than my little Kia that I drive. So it's like, that's another thing that's changed.
It has. Well, don't worry. Our son's car is older than he is. So, and he likes to work on it. So it's good. It's a good thing. He's ordering a muffler for it right now.
Nice.
I know that some people think there's a shortage of teachers in our area. I'm not sure that that's the case so much anymore. We had an influx of teachers last year coming from Helena, which, they kind of flooded the schools in different ways. Is the block scheduling keeping sort of a cap on the amount of teachers that need to be hired, or tell me how the block scheduling is helping schools at the moment, because I go back and forth on it.
Yeah, it's definitely a money saving thing. I don't think if our budget was so crunched that we probably would have done that. And I can't really speak for the school district on their view. This is conversations I've had around block scheduling over the years, because we've looked at block scheduling in the middle school for a long time. Essentially, one of the things it does is it puts a teacher, in particular in Bozeman, the teacher spends more time with kid contact. Mm-hmm. So the number of minutes of prep time is dropped. And if you have fewer people doing more minutes of work, you essentially get the same minutes at the end of the day with fewer people. So that's a money savings thing for the school district. And then there's a mixed bag. There are some teachers that really like it, and there are some teachers that really hate it. Mm-hmm. And it depends on subject areas, some on where somebody is in their career. I think if you're younger in your career, it's easier to adjust and adapt.
No, I think there's some hiccups at the high school currently. The first year, everything's difficult. Yeah. As a science teacher, I'm excited. I think it's great because I can do the lesson and then the lab like all on the same day. So I like that.
And there's some science teachers absolutely love it. Some of the English teachers are really struggling.
Yeah.
It's just the way the class runs is different.
Absolutely.
And then I think the math kids, at least at the middle school, meet more often than other courses, which is really interesting.
We have block
Mixed
math here.
reviews from our students in our house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think keeping your attention in math for that long is hard.
I want to ask you about some changes that are being made at the federal level. This is what the reason that I wanted to have you on the podcast is because, we hear about everything that's happening at the top on a national level. How do you expect those changes to affect us in the Gallatin Valley?
I have mixed feelings about it. The whole thing breaks my heart because it's like, it just shows where it feels like the value of education lies with the national level. And I don't think that's true or real. I think the reality of it is the vast majority of our school district budgets comes from the state. There's a little bit of Title I funding. There's a little tiny bit of Title IX funding and some special ed funding that comes from the federal government side, but it's not a huge portion of the budget. It would be felt and there would be some pain, but it's not like it's going to be a quarter or a half of a school district budget. So I think as far as like looking from the state perspective and the school district perspective, the money will continue to come in. It's just going to come in a different way. It'll probably be block grants now when this all settles out, and we'll see if what actually comes to be. Yeah. So the money should still be there. When they dismantled the Department of Education or attempted to, or however that looks, they did not get rid of the part that disperses the money that has already been budgeted. So, but we're still in a spot where it looks like our country absolutely doesn't value public education. Yeah. And that's the hard part for me.
And working in a Title I school, I definitely, when I hear that federal funding is going to be cut and things like that, I'm always worried because, we're not very fancy. We're wonderful. I mean, it's a wonderful school district and school system. And, I worry about food insecurities with kids and things like that. All that funding I want very much. There's kids that depend on their meals that they get here at school.
Absolutely. And I've told the story so many times. Every Friday I would go down and check my mailbox and there would just be I don't know if somebody stole it. I'm sure not, but like a grocery cart. I'm sure it was legitimately there, full of little bags of like it was food for kids to take home for their families, but it's things that I wouldn't necessarily want to eat. Yeah. It's low quality, it's highly processed. Yeah. And that's like what we can afford to send home with kids. When the federal guidelines or the sauce on your little piece of pizza is a vegetable serving, that's just like, what?
And ketchup. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Tomatoes a fruit.
It's not okay. Yes.
We're getting technical.
Good point.
Tell me more a little bit. You spoke on it before. How at risk is Montana regarding a voucher program?
There is already the first program passed last time. And it was a voucher that allowed parents of special ed students to start a special ed savings account. And it was very strange how it was done. You essentially, as a parent, had to waive your special ed rights to have the school district's portion of money sent to OPI to manage in an account for you that then you could spend on materials or instruction things for your students. And it was purely special ed, and there are kids that are currently using it. So that's done. Okay. So voucher number 1 is in place. There was some attempts to do vouchers on a bigger scale this time. Luckily, they have died in committee, so they're not coming through. But one thing I've learned is nothing is done here until the session is completely over and the last day closes. Things can still happen. Magically, there's these things called free conference committees where anything can get shoved into a bill if the title allows for it.
Just these zombie pieces of legislation.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Is there someone that parents and Montanans can write to and state their case?
I will say, like my union organizing stuff, when I got into this and started bargaining contracts and ended up seeing how it all worked, the MFPE, which is the state level public employees union, has 4 members, has a section called rapid response team, where when there's legislation that comes up for public education or other public employees, the president sends out an email with whatever the topic is, and who to reach out to and some talking points. And then people will type their own email and send it to whichever legislators are recommended. If it's in committee, it's often just to the committee members or one or two committee members that might be key votes. If it's a floor bill, it might go to everyone on the floor, but there are thousands of people that are doing that are members. And then there's also a Protect Montana team is what MFP's calling it. And it's any citizen that wants to be caught up with what's happening for public education and public employees.
Okay.
And both of those, I'm sure if you Google them, you could find them. And then that lets somebody else, like, there's too much to keep track of. I mean, if you're raising kids and working jobs, tracking bills is not like part of life or reality.
It's not.
Yep.
It's not. But I do think people should be aware of the voucher program and what it is. And for those listeners that don't know about the voucher program, we can have some links on there.
Sure.
But yeah,
check the show notes.
It's basically vouchers given to people who want to send their kids to private schools.
Yep.
And so they're given a chunk of money to help fund their private school education, their children's private school education. But that money has to come from somewhere, and that money's coming from public education. So there are schools, like I said, Des Moines, Iowa tried it. There are schools in Des Moines shutting down now because they can't afford to stay open.
Arizona is another one that just is being decimated. They actually had to, the way they wrote their bill, defunded, they had to like change their entire state budget because they were sending so much money to private schools.
Representative Matthews, you are in the grind right now. Give me a story or a moment that keeps you coming back to these marathon sessions. What energizes you?
I have hope in the system. I think that's all it is. Like, I got up here and you don't know what to expect. And the system is built in a way that if we can get people to vote and to get out there and to not vote based on the R or the D, but on what's important. I feel like there's so much misinformation in the world, but if people are aware of what reality is, and I say that like my reality is the real reality, but we had a chemtrail bill today. So I think about what reality may or may not be. So it's interesting, but the system is built up. And if we can get people to vote and we can get people engaged, I have hope that we're not going to end up as a total dumpster fire.
I like that. I like it.
I'm glad we have you there.
Goals.
All right. Before we let you go, there's a mandatory dumb Marmot game.
I never know what they are. I never like them. But here we are.
This one is called Reading, Writing, and Arithmetic. Finally, a vocab test for the teachers. This is certainly going to be the most cringe dumb Marmot game yet. Don't expect much. It's very mid with basically zero BDE. I'm going to ask you some terms that the kids are using.
Oh no, I'm going to
you got to tell me what they mean. Okay? Michelle's in it. She's in it every day.
Yeah.
But they don't often use those words.
And I'm going to write it on the board.
To me.
Because we have a whiteboard.
So why wouldn't you?
Do you even know how to write on a whiteboard?
I think I do. All right. Let's start with...
Got some of my Indian Education for All books in the background.
Should I stand here? How about this? It's
right
there in the
I
title.
It's the abbreviation for charisma.
Yes.
Boom.
It was weird how my kids didn't know that was short for charisma. I'm like, well, let me tell you what charisma means.
The kids didn't know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. One's charm or seduction skills. How about drip?
Drip.
What you got, Eric?
I got nothing on drip.
Matthews.
Is drip sort of like if it's cool, or like if they have an item of clothing that's like nice?
Pretty good. Trendy, high class fashion.
Oh, see? No, that's not me.
Mrs. Borden takes this one. All right. How about this one? No help from the peanut gallery. Wallace is back there. How about no cap?
No cap. Nope, I got nothing. I'm so glad I got Riz.
Michelle, no cap?
That means like wild abandon kind of thing?
No. No cap is this is true. I'm not lying.
Oh.
No lie. All right.
Okay.
I know you hear this one, Michelle. Sigma. What does sigma mean?
Oh my God, I feel so old.
You don't know this one?
No.
Michelle, any idea?
Wallace, come here.
Sigma? Oh, she's going to cheat.
I have a middle schooler.
Okay, so sigma, it basically means you're like really cool, and yeah.
A person who is individualistic, self-reliant, and successful.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you,
All right.
Wallace. Thank you, Wallace.
Good
Our
job,
guest
Wallace.
star. Yep.
Love it.
He's in 6.
Glaze. How about glaze?
All I know for that one is it's what you would use as a glass person for glazing windows.
Yeah.
It's different.
I would imagine.
Glaze, Michelle, anything?
No idea.
To hype, praise, or compliment someone so much that it becomes excessive or annoying.
But I love glaze.
Yeah, glazing. It seems good. All
Like, I
right,
think I'm a donut.
we're almost done. How about bussin'?
Ooh, that's like trucking along, maybe.
These are getting harder.
Bussin'.
Bussin'.
I don't know.
Extremely good. Excellent. Sometimes it's
Oh.
used to describe good food.
Ooh,
We're gonna have to use all of these, Eric,
yeah.
in the house.
Huzz.
Oh my gosh.
How about huzz?
I think you're making this stuff up now.
I'm not. Wallace knows. He's yelling from the back. What is huzz?
It's like your girlfriend or boyfriend.
Usually a group of girls. I think it's actually derived from like hose. So
Oh.
it's like borderline offensive, that
Hey,
one.
don't use it then, Wallace.
All right.
I thought
Ohio.
it was like short for like husband. Or
This is the last one. Ohio.
Ohio.
Isn't that a state in the Midwest?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you,
It
Eric.
is, but
It
Wallace,
is.
Wallace, what does it mean to you? Ohio.
It means like suspicious, like weird.
Weird,
Oh.
cringe,
That's Ohio.
unexpected.
I feel like Midwesterners are like
It's-
genuine.
It's because people think Ohio is bad.
That's
All right,
hysterical.
and this is the one. So
Stop there.
I remember saying something was massive recently, and Wallace got very excited, and he goes, "Do you know what else is massive?" And I thought he was making some sort of very inappropriate
joke.
reference,
Yeah.
but apparently the answer is, "Do you know what else is massive? Low taper fade."
I like that they have.
They have their own language,
Yeah, we do.
their own vocabulary. That was
Yes.
reading, writing, and arithmetic. I apologize that you had to sit
Oh.
through that.
I love it. I wish I would have known more, but I got Riz. That's
Yeah.
You got
Same.
Riz.
I think I fell off a cliff after that one.
You taught me a lot today, and I wanted to teach you a little something
I
Thanks.
appreciate it.
about the kids.
Well,
Yeah.
I hope you get some rest. Yeah, he came directly from voting, you guys. So he's a very busy man. So we really appreciate your time today. And
All
thank you
good.
for all your work.
You bet. Thanks for doing what you're doing.
Yes.